As you may or may not know from the other video that is still in the process of publishing right now, but it should probably be published before this one, I should be asleep right now. I should really be asleep right now. But I also really want to make this video. I really want to talk about Jormungandr because he's just so interesting to me, and I really want to look at the patch notes as well. I have a flight tomorrow in the morning, so yeah, I'm going to regret this, but let's jump into it. Jomungandr, the World Serpent update notes. We got a new god in the game, and that is Jomungandr, the Norse god, the World Serpent. And we're going to look at his abilities first, and then the rest of the changes real quick as well. It's going to be quick today. His passive is immovable. On one hand, that means he cannot be hard displaced, meaning he can not get knocked up, pulled, vortexed, and all that kind of stuff. So this affects various parts of CC that would somehow move him. Instead, he gets dazed. That means he gets slowed with a fading slow. That means the slow slowly goes away. And he gets increased damage taken. And apparently, there's another passive that's tied in right with this for some reason in the description, but it's not tied to it at all. And that is any attack speed past base reduces the cooldown rate of Jomungandr's basic attack. Let's talk about the first part first. So he has a 20% slow that he gets when he is being CC'd in a form that he cannot be CC'd in any displacement CC basically. And that fades over 2 seconds, so 20% over 2 seconds is not really that much if it fades out. 20% for 2 seconds would be a bit more. Like this, it's not really that much. And he also takes 10% increased damage, which, again, is also not that much. It can be impactful, especially since he's a tank, but considering that often displacement CC means death otherwise, or a significant portion of your health being taken, like Naja ult, it's really not much. And I think that could become a critical issue, and Hyra said they're looking into it. And the other part is that Jomungandr has a charged basic attack, meaning when he attacks enemies, he has quick attacks first, and then slowly his passive meter drains down, and the attacks become slower and slower, because he's got a fire cone in front of him, basically. And yeah, with attack speed, you can kind of decrease the reduction, as strange as that sounds. And his first ability is Venomous Haze. To put it very simple, this is an AoE ability where he puts a small pool on the ground that deals damage, a small cloud. And this cloud lasts for 20 seconds, and he can have up to 9 clouds on the ground at the same time. So it's more about spamming this everywhere. Maybe if you're familiar with Karthus from League of Legends, it's a little bit like that, but also different because the haze stays around. Damage here is 80 to 240 plus 40% scaling, and that's the initial damage. And then the tick damage is 5 to 45 plus 5% of magical power. So not really much. So you can walk through that, but it's still, a deterrent. You don't want to take that damage if you don't have to. And I think it will also proc various effects, like on-hit effects. It slows for 15% as well. And the duration is 1 second. The cloud, again, lasts for 20 seconds. And the cooldown goes down from 16 to 12 seconds. So, yeah, 9 clouds at a time is kind of hard to achieve unless you have, like, very specific items and strategies for that. 60-80 mana cost, 65 range, and a radius of 10. So, kind of small. 15, actually. It has 2 different radiuses. I guess the cloud is bigger than the initial attack. Consuming Bellow is Jomungandr draws a power from toxic clouds nearby while channeling for 1.2 seconds. So if you have clouds around you, it's already better. At the end of the channel, Jomungandr roars, dealing damage to all enemies, trembling and slowing enemies so they run away. Enemy guards by 30% for 1.5 seconds. Each cloud increases the size of Consuming Bellow and empowers him with up to 3 times. While also dealing extra damage to enemies hit. Extra damage after the first instance is halved. While empowered, Jomungandr's basic attack fires at its fastest rate. So a lot of interaction with the pool here. Essentially, you can increase the radius, you can increase your damage, and you can increase your fire rate through all of this. Damage of this ability is 120 to 360, 50% scaling, also nothing ridiculous there. Bonus damage 20 to 60, plus 10% of your magical power, and again, after the first instance is lowered, but it can still go quite high. You can still get like 600 plus out of this, I guess. And while channeling this, you have 10% damage mitigation. The powered buff, basic attack buff, lasts for 1 second per stack that you have, so if you have 9 pools, that would be 9 seconds. No, it would not be because you only have maximum of 3 stacks, so maximum of 3 seconds. But hey, 3 seconds of smoking the enemy's faces is pretty good still. 30% slow on top of that, definitely effective as well in combination with the tremble, so they run away from you but not very fast, so you can hit them with everything. And yeah, you get that initial radius of 20, but the end radius, I guess that's the increased radius, I'm assuming, and the cooldown of 14 seconds here. But the end radius of 30. Not quite sure how that's meant. Very interesting mechanic. Can really be really weak or really strong depending on how well it works out and how often you can really have those clouds down on the ground. But also, of course, disruption CC. Not in the biggest area most of the time, though, unless you're already spamming your one. So if you have an extended team fight, it's a very good. He's all about that, I guess. Submerge. Very simple. Jomungandr goes underground, becomes invisible, and can see enemies around him, like stealth enemies. He has a radar. And if he is affected by abilities from enemies, he will be revealed for them. He doesn't get broken out of stealth entirely, but he gets revealed. And then he pops up, and he knocks the enemy up as well, I think. It's not actually specific. Oh, yeah, it is mentioned at the end. Enemies get knocked up when he gets out of the ground, and it's 70 to 290 damage with 50% scaling. Again, not super high. And underground, he has 25% extra movement speed. So you get a spooky snake suddenly attacking you. And with the radius of 20, you have to aim that relatively precisely as well. It's also not a super big CC. And then his ultimate is the World Serpent. That is basically Red Ult and his 3 combined or something. I don't even know how to explain this. You actually have to look at this to really understand it. So Jomungandr jumps jumps into the ground and out of the ground, and can do that up to 3 times, kind of like Ratatoskr jumps on his branches. But every time he slams into the ground, and everyone that's in the line of his movement or at the target area where he lands will take damage. And they can also be CC'd. I think it's also a knock up, or a knock back at least. And yeah, he's got this submerge damage when he goes into the ground, which is 150 to 350 plus 40% scaling, the highest damage. Then he's got the emerge or crash damage. That's basically when he pops out or anywhere along the line where his body drops down to the ground again. That's 75 to 175, so half here. And 20% scaling is also halved. Cooldown is 120 seconds and goes down to 100, so relatively long, with 100 mana cost and a 20 radius again. But yeah, okay, it's again a knock up. So this guy is all about knocking enemies up and having a fear on top of that. So that's pretty scary in terms of CC still, but it's also in a very small area. You can also quickly look at the recolor here. That's what it looks like, or the art here. And we're also going to look at all the other new skins. Normally I would have them open before, but because I'm so sleep deprived, I didn't even think about doing that. So we're just gonna do that right here. We have a Deathbringer. I was gonna say Arthur's. It's Arthur, but it looks like Arthur, so it's Arthur's. Then we have a new Neath skin, which is just a recolor for the Switch. And then we have the Naja Dragon Prince, who's got a dragon instead of a sash. We've got Infinite Sia Arpoche, which is really cool in terms of his effects. He has this shattering glass effect on his 2, one of these new style skins. We have a Skadi skin, Wolfsbane, which is very like forest themed, and we have Changa Spellbound, which is a witch themed character basically. And then Anhur gets his gold model. I can show that very quick, and that's actually the Jomungandr's real recolor card. I don't know what's going on with the other one. So Anhur has a bit nicer gold skins now. And as usual, I'm gonna quickly give you the audio for the skins here, so turn on your headphones if you have to.
This world shall be cleansed of all life. The damned will once more rise again.
Oh, that's not working yet.
I will enlighten all those who challenge me, and those who refuse to learn will be destroyed.
These outsiders think they can come here and destroy our home. They will feel nature's wrath.
I call upon the power of the moon and stars. Help me defeat my foes and make it through the day.
Such tiny things with your little dreams and destinies. You have meddled with power you could never understand.
By the way, Jormungandr's voice pack is really good in my opinion. It definitely check out his animations as well. Also in the other video, the live video basically. It's got some crazy stuff. I'm not gonna spoil what the clap is, but the clap is just the best animation you could possibly be. Alright, we've got a few new cosmetic things here. We got a Flowerbed, Deathmark, Wolfsbane Announcer Pack, King Arthur Loading Screen, and King Arthur Announcer Pack. It could actually be interesting ones. I kind of want to hear them. In terms of Project Olympus, there's an update to deserter penalties. Basically, the first deserter is now 10 minutes, and then it scales up slower at the start and then quicker at the end, and you can actually get a deserter up to 4 days, if up to 1 day, if you consistently leave games and drop out of games. So don't dodge too much, because that will end up that way. Yeah, and if you have a very unstable internet connection, you probably have to do something about it, because otherwise you'll get a lot less playtime now. And indicators have been added in Conquest to make more clear what team kills an objective. I'm not quite sure what these indicators are, but the Siege gets like a little quality of life improvement, and there's the UI fix for console. There are various fixes to gameplay. Rod of Tahuti not working with the Merlin stances out of Arcane. Evolved Warrior's Blessing didn't proc on King... What? To now proc with King Arthur's basic attacks? Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Fine. Fix an issue where Neathold could target Totem of Ku. That was actually an interesting mechanic. And I think we're going to skip the rest here, because there was a glitch with Chiron that was fixed, that was kind of known, and some effect issues and some UI issues. Mostly fixes here, like for example, you couldn't invite, you couldn't add non-friends and stuff like that. It's details here for the most part. And that brings us to the relevant part for us here, the balance updates. Totem of Ku was basically glitched, and that's why it didn't work as it was intended. Fix an issue where Totem would gain significantly more health per kill than the intended 200. The Totem of Ku can no longer be targeted and affected by God-only abilities. That's the Neathold. And the Totem of Ku can no longer be attacked when it is inactive, so no more healing with Berserker Shield or Bellona 3. The speed buff gets a nerf, yay, great, from 10% movement speed to 5% movement speed. In return, Assassin's Blessing gets a buff nerf, because the change is that the evolved form now gets 5 penetration instead of 10 and 5% movement speed. That means junglers will consistently have more movement speed, depending on, independent of if they have the speed buff or not, which basically means they don't have to focus on that much, because it's only 5% at the end of the day now. That means they will be slower in the early game. That means there's less snowballing from one side from the jungler, and it also means that Assassin's Blessing is just such a super frustrating item to have in your build. It's just super forced. Assassin's Blessing, in comparison to any other item in the starter category, in the Blessings category, has no real value outside of jungling. It has 5 pen and 5% movement speed now. Look at the stats the other items have for any fight. They're not like deals damage to solo minions or something. No, they deals damage to everyone. Heals often even from fighting guards, whereas Assassin's Blessing is just like, nah. You're fighting guards? Okay, have some pen. Have 5 pen and 5% movement speed. Okay, I guess. Used to be a cool item once. Celestial Legion Helm. Increased cost from 2050 to 2150, and the protections gained are reduced from 10 per stack to 7 per stack. That's because Celestial Legion Helm is busted, and I've been saying that for a while, and the pros have been saying that for a while, and so it gets nerfs. And Dynasty Platinum got a buff recently, so I think, Harris wants to see more Dynasty and less Celestial. God. Elixir speed decreased cost from 2000 to 1500. I don't think that changes much. I still think it should be tied with the price of boots, so you have to buy boots first, and then when you sell boots, then you can get Elixir of Speed for the price of the sales value or something, because this way you will still have to spend more than you sell your boots for, and you have to spend more for another item. So unless you have a very specific item that you have in mind that's better than a 3k pot, that's not worth it. May be the case for example, a mage that needs Mantle of Discord or something, but rare. Spear of the Magus increased cost from 300 to 2450. 2700 is what it should be. Decreased base magical penetration from 15 to 10. Good changes. I still think it stacks too high with up to 50 flat reduction, but I like that Spear of the Magus is getting fine-tuned. And in the end of the day, the early pen that it has is actually more valuable in most situations, so I'm happy with this. Voidstone increased cost from 2150 to 2250. Decreased aura penetration from 20 to 15. Again, I've been talking about these protection reduction things. They are scary, they're annoying, in the mage department especially. But I'm also kind of surprised that Void Shield isn't getting the same nerf. God Balance Achilles, Radiant Glory increased heal from 23 to 35% to 24 to 40%. Hyrule said they want to buff him a little more in regards to his tank capabilities, his utility capabilities, and I think this buff does exactly that. So it could be quite a fair bit. It could actually be quite impactful if you play him right. Bellona, Master of War, increased protections from 4 protections per stack to 5 protections per stack. I don't think anyone is actually ever gonna notice that specifically, but it's gonna be impactful to some degree because you spam a lot of basic Q, so you get that a lot, and in a trade, I think that can make a difference even though you won't feel it. Kukulin base stats increased base HP from 475 to 480, and basic attack power from 38 to 39. That also scales up a little more then, so that's pretty nice. And Berserk has the health conversion increased from 15% of the mana to 20% of the mana. That I think is interesting. I think it's still not much, but if you have mana on an item, it's just a little bit of a gimmick, I guess. So it helps a little bit. And with the base HP being a little bit increased, you get a little the few odd chances where you survive because of that extra 5 HP basically. Fafnir, curse strength, increased the base damage from 80 to 260 to 100 to 260. So nothing at the end here, but an early increase of the damage. So he gets a little bit more pressure that way, which it's okay, I think, even though Fafnir has most of his power in late game. FREYA was reworked, and she's getting kind of reworked again. She is getting some minor reworks this time. We heard about this before, now we know what it is. Mystic Warrior decreased self-heal on hit from 2% to 1.5%. Okay, that's reasonable. And then Northern Lights. Northern Lights has been adjusted. Northern Lights, when activated, FREYA gains 5 shots of Northern Lights. No more one-shot boom. Each basic attack consumes a charge, even if that attack does not hit. Decrease the damage from 40 to 200 to 11 to 75. Now, some things to keep in mind here, right? A big threat with FREYA was always that, you're in a minion wave basically, and then she throws it in and you take a massive chunk of damage. That will be less now because she would have to do that 5 times. So you have to stand in the minion wave the whole time, which is kind of on you if you do that. Additionally, the scaling decreased from 40% to 10% means you have to hit 4 out of 5 shots. And in so far, I think this is pretty good. The damage adjustments here are reasonable, considering that not many players hit the majority of their basics all the time. But the slow duration is reduced from 2 seconds to 1.25 seconds, and that I think is the bad part here, because the slow duration is not drastically decreased. 2 basics, and you are already above that. And the slow duration allows you to hit the next basic easier because the enemy is slowed. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of that concept, and yeah, I don't think that should be the case. Charges last indefinitely, ability goes on cooldown when all consumed, so kind of Medusa style in how it works. We'll see if that works better. I still have my doubts. Aurora Blade reduced mana cost from 20 to 40 to 14 to 30, so as if she didn't have enough mana to begin with. I'm still very critical of FREYA's current state. I'm not so sure if this will change it, but we'll see. We'll really have to wait. Hajiman, Heavenly Banner, increased damage from 75 to 295 to 85 to 305. Quite a bit of a increase here overall, 10 10 across the board. But especially in early, I think this will be impactful. This will be noticeable, and yeah, this is a reverted nerf, so I think Hachiman is gonna come back a little bit, maybe. But at the end of the day, duo often depends just on what the meta is. Hercules mitigated wounds, increased protections buff from 10 to 50 to 20 to 60. I was kind of expecting that. We're not seeing much of Hercules in general. He's just not a performing god for a while now, so yeah, gives him a little bit of an opportunity, and I don't think it's gonna break him or anything. Odin, the weirdest change this patch. Flairboot pointed this out to me. Ring of Spears. This ability no longer applies in attack speed slow to enemies in its area, because apparently Odin was too good at boxing people in the ring. Fun fact, that means it's not worth putting any points into the ultimate. There's nothing in the ult that changes when you level it. So yeah, it's a 1-point wonder now, and that's a kind of a weird change. I mean, it should make a difference, right? Sobek base stats increased. We have the HP going from 81 per level to 86, which is quite a bit across 20 levels. So I think it's a hefty change. And Blessing of the Nile increased protections per stack from 7 to 10. Also very nice. I hope it brings Sobek back a little more. I like Sobek. I mean, he's not exactly going to play well against Jomungandr, but I just like Sobek, so I'm always happy to see Sobek somewhere. And that's the idea with Sobek, is to just pluck him and then just go all in on him and just do super high amounts of damage. Could try that, eh? Sylvanas gets a change to his wisps that I think is very interesting, because it doesn't really, it's different. Increased projectile speed from 50 to 100 doesn't affect the initial release speed, so they fly to allies and enemies quicker. Wisps now apply an additional tick right as they hit an ally or enemy, same damage or heal as the other ticks. So you get an immediate tick, and then it's just like it's just a little bit, like 30 and 10% of your magical power, or 35, but it's nice to have this immediate heal instead of having to wait compared to other healers that are a lot more responsive in that regard. And I think that can change him. Even if they took away the last tick in return, it could change him in an interesting way. Tyr has struggled much like Hercules, and also no surprise that he's getting changes here. The base stats in this regard are changed. The physical protections decreased from 15 to 18, which was always like kind of all low. And then the power cleave has the healing increased from 25 to 105 to 30 to 130. That part I'm definitely not happy about. I don't think this healing Tyr should ever come back. I think that's not how the character should be played. Because then it becomes a stupid thing of how do you counter build him again, because you need Magi's Cloak, but you also need anti-heal, but you also need percentage penetration just to counter one god, which is a bit dumb. And then, last but not least, Vamana. Colossal Fury now collides with players only. This means you can't run through him anymore. He can't body block. He can't get body blocked. He couldn't get body blocked this way, and can now get body blocked. B, he can now body block, which is scary actually in that regard. But C, you cannot do the trick where you just run through him and like try to make him miss by running through his model, which I thought was a cool mechanic, which not many people used. But yeah, won't be able to do that anymore. And that's it for these patch notes. With that, thank you guys very much for watching. I should definitely go to sleep now. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow, or maybe the day after. We'll see if I can make another one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.